up, Mr. Joel Taylor, CEO of Hilton Head Regional Hospital. I know, Joel, you're newer into your role as CEO, and just want to welcome you tonight and offer our congratulations to you and ask you for a little bit of update from the hospital.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And having followed Dr. Kelly a couple times in various mediums, I can't figure out if it's better to go before or after her. She does such a great job explaining kind of the current state of the pandemic. Locally, I would tell you, we thankfully really are in line with the graph that she showed, kind of that first slide, that by all accounts, we have weathered the latest surge. Across our two hospitals, we have 4 COVID positive inpatients, one of whom is in the ICU. And that has been fairly consistent for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I would estimate probably 3 weeks in particular. What I would echo too is her sentiment that somewhere between 75 to 85% of the patients we're seeing that are admitted are unvaccinated. The vaccine has done a tremendous job in keeping people out of the hospital, and we're thankful for it. We continue to strongly encourage it, but by all accounts, we have weathered this latest surge. We are watching closely both the predictive models and our own experience with positivity rates, looking to determine if we could expect another surge in the future. We stand ready if indeed there is another surge, but we are hopeful that maybe with the vaccine rates and other efforts, we've got this largely behind us, or at least the spikes are behind us, if nothing else. So that's kind of a short summary of how Hilton Head Hospital sits relative to the COVID surge. Happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Are there any questions from members of the council?
All right. Thank you, Joel. Great to see you. Great to see you. Next, very exciting presentation of the Krista Award from South Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association for our plan. And as we know, that's the 2020 to 2040 comprehensive plan. And I will, if I don't see Sean up here or Chris Yates, Chris or Sean, are you going to introduce this matter a little further? Taylor's
yeah, Mr. Orlando, we have Stephanie Tillerson. Yes, hello. We have Stephanie Tillerson with us to present the award from the South Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association.
Wonderful. And Stephanie and I go way back, and I will remind people, I first met Stephanie here on the second floor of the planning department some years ago when Stephanie worked here and we were early in our careers, and Stephanie has become and always remains a good friend to me, and also a fellow colleague as Kiowa's town manager.
Yes, yeah, thank you. It is, I'm going to share my screen here because I have a short presentation. I know you guys are busy, but it brings great pleasure to give this award because, as you said, I was a planner there. I was thinking today, and I don't want to date Mark and myself, but 20 years. So, and I know I still look like I'm a little girl to you all, right? But I was a current planner there, and I started my career there as a planner with the town of Hilton Head. I learned so much, and I don't think I would be where I'm at today if it wasn't for all the planners there and the leadership that was at Hilton Head at the time I was employed there. So now, as you said, I sit here as the town administrator with the town of Kiowa Island, and I am the incoming president of the South Carolina American Planning Association. So I am here today with that hat to present the award to Taylor, who's already actually received the award. She can hold it up. Because of COVID, we could not present in person, but we sent the awards out to everyone. So quickly, this is for the Our Town 2020-2040 comprehensive plan that you all did such a great job, very innovative in thinking of ways to to go about doing community planning. So just going to go ahead and advance to the next slide here if I can. And I'm just going to go right to this part here. This part that Taylor shared with me is the 7 core values I'm sure you all are aware of. And the shining reason why this was selected by the South Carolina American Planning Association in terms of receiving an award, thinking about the innovation that you all bring to the table, the community effort, looking at the number of hours of volunteers, staff time, that you all didn't hire consultants to do this work, and that you had in-house a group that was able to put this plan together. And with the community support, I think everyone can buy into kind of moving the future forward for the town of Hilton Head. And one of the things I really liked, and I just put in just 2 photos that was shared with me, is to show the amount of community engagement that this plan has brought about. And so I hope everyone there in the community really feels and believes that this is their plan, not just the town of Hilton Head, but it's their plan, it's their document, their Bible to discuss future growth of the community. And I just thought this was great here, looking at the kids and getting them involved in the process, because of course this is for their future. So in the end, just congratulations, great job. We look forward to maybe you guys presenting some more on your plan at our next conference or our next planning conference this fall, right there in your backyard in Hilton Head. So thank you.
Thank you,
Taylor.
Stephanie. Yeah, thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Stephanie. Great to see you again, even though it's virtual.
Yeah, great to see you. Take care.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Next up, Mr. Mike Scanlon, Chairman for our semi-annual update from the Planning Commission. Mr. Scanlon, great to see you and thank you for everything you do. You're on mute, sir.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. First of all, let me say, as a member of the Art Plan Development Team and as Chairman of the Comprehensive Plan Committee of the Planning Commission, I want to congratulate Taylor Ladd and all the staff who were involved in that spectacular effort. You're to be congratulated. I'm glad to see you've received this award. Mr. Mayor and members of council, as the new chairman of the Planning Commission, I'm pleased to be on the call today to provide council with our semi-annual report, which you have in your packet, pages 10 and 11, I believe. Our report covers 7 items that we have recommended for town council action over the last 6 months, ranging from an LMO amendment regarding family compounds and subdivisions to our comprehensive plan updates, such as the low country hazard mitigation plan. We've also rejected zoning map amendment on Marshland Road, and we have approved an action at Sea Pines Country Club. Please note that 3 members of the commission recused themselves on that Sea Pines action because they are also members of that club. We've handled other routine matters such as the passive park at Fort Shellring and have changed street names and the like, as those were also addressed. Most recently, we forwarded to town council the Greater Island Council Beaufort County landfill resolution. My fellow commissioners and I would like to thank Mayor McCann and Town Manager Orlando for their willingness to open communications with the Planning Commission. We would, as a commission, would like to be in sync with council and town leaders and not be seen or not feel as if we're some remote outrigger to town government. Our main concern at this point is probably how we can be helpful in solving our workforce housing issue. And the other item I wanted to mention is that I want to thank Mr. Orlando for seeing to it that his new strategic plan fits very like hand in glove with the comprehensive 20-year plan. We were very pleased to see that. And I've invited Mr. Orlando to come to our planning commission meeting and brief us on that document, especially those elements of the plan which will come to planning commission before they arrive on your desk. That pretty much concludes what I had to say, unless there are any questions. And my last comment is, we hate Zoom meetings, just for the record.
Are there any questions for Mike? Mike, I thank you very much, and I enjoyed meeting you in person last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate it. I'll work with Krista, Mayor and Council. I'll work with Krista to appear at Planning Commission potentially in January to overview the strategic plan once you adopt it as a formal body and a formal approval. So more to come on that. And last but not least, I have here status update, town hall technology and security enhancement. Just real brief and high level. With the use of the American Rescue Plan funds, you directed some of the use of those dollars towards some improvements to technology as well as security at Town Hall. I just want to share with you and the community that those enhancements are scoped and the initial stages of them are underway. So as we return to Town Council chambers, you will see and hear some improvements to the audio-visual program in there, as well as some social media capabilities. And so I'm excited to put those in place. So the longer we work in the middle of a pandemic, the more we realize that technology needs to be our friend, and those enhancements under the careful watch and vision of John Tuttle, our IT director, are moving forward. In addition, as a security program, not to get into all the various details of what a security program is and isn't in our town government at our town hall, I'm pleased to tell you that our visitor management system is soon to be formalized. So visiting in our building will be a lot more formal. Town council public meetings, as an example, the entry will be through the center corridor, past a security guard and metal detector. As you enter into town council chambers, so that we can do our business in a safe and intentional manner. Some internal and I should say external lighting will be in place, and we will have a security guard on site in our future. So more to come. I've provided an overview of that project and some specifics for you, but I just wanted to share that update with you and the community today. And with that, Mayor McCann, that is my report of the town manager.
Good. Thank you very much. We have intentions, because of what the update on security and the update on what we hear about the pandemic just now, target January as our reopening of public meetings in the council. And that will be for the council and all other meetings like public planning and the rest of them. So unless something happens unexpectedly, we're looking for a January 2nd open in town hall. I'm sure they'll make everybody happy, including me. Second of all, before I forget, is I want to thank all the council members and the staff of town hall, of town, for attending the Veterans Day celebration in the park the other day. It's one of the best events of the year. It's a beautiful place to be in, and it's great seeing all of you there, and I thank you very much. Now, as reported by town members, general reports before we start. Ms. Ames, Mr. Lennox.
Thank you, Mayor. I recently attended a committee meeting via Zoom, and I want to acknowledge how well ATAC Chairman Jim Fluker and his ATAC committee handled a clearly uninformed caller. And I'd like to acknowledge the way they conducted their review of the ATAC's grant applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general reports? Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not a report, just a question. Thank you for the update on when we will be back in person. A couple meetings ago, we had the topic of redistricting at hand, and we were awaiting some maps to, I guess, correlate with the statistics that we were given. Any update on when that map will be available?
We're waiting that from Revenue and Fiscal Affairs.
Yeah, we're getting that baseline from Revenue Fiscal Affairs, but we're also working on a few maps internally as they result in the different blocks and grids, and those maps should be.
We've got the maps for the existing districts as they are today, and there are 651 census blocks. And we have maps that show what they are today. What we don't have is the new data with the numbers that came in from Revenue and Fiscal Affairs.
So we can give you really if you'd like, from a point of reference, what we currently have, but what I was waiting for is to get that information from the state and calibrate the maps accordingly.
And Alex, I'm asking Josh, as we're sitting here, to correspond with the state tomorrow to see where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ames.
Yes, I want to make sure that the community knows that the mayor, with his New York Yankees lantern, led the lantern parade on Saturday evening. It was a boisterous effort on the part of all those who attended. It was incredible. I think the community spirit was fantastic. And I heard a number of people saying, and actually people coming up to me and saying, thank you, town, for doing that. And I just want to call out Jen McEwen's leadership in putting that together, and thanks staff who did such an incredible job of organizing it. But Mayor, kudos to you for leading it.
Thank you, David. Good seeing you there. Majority of council, it was what Hilton is all about. Mr. Glenn?
Thank you. I want to second David Ames' comments. I was there. It was a great time. I don't know the number of people that were there, but I would guess something like 2,000 of our citizens were out there, and several hundred were sitting there observing us and cheering us on. Thank you, Jen, for an outstanding job. This reflects the spirit of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hawkins.
As we all know, the concourse was a outstanding success. Rain became a real impediment, and a lot of things logistically had to be addressed in short order. And I was asked to place a call to our town manager, and in a very expeditious way, he intervened and guaranteed that the event would continue smoothly in spite of the rain. So thank you, town manager.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir. I just really passed that off to, our fearless leader, Jeff Buckaloo, who knew what he needed to do to really pivot and help the audible at the line of scrimmage the day of the rain as we were supporting the concourse. So thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Any other reports? Okay. Report of the Low Country Transportation System, Councilman Stanford.
Yes, we have had no meeting, and so I have no report. Thank you.
Low Country Council of Government, Ms. Becker.
I'm going to report this evening. Thank you.
South Carolina Floodwater Commission, Mr. Brown.
No report, sir.
Okay. So local, Mr. Lennox.
Thank you, John. Soloco met this morning at 10 o'clock. There were two agenda items. The first was a housing trust fund update from Eric Greenway, primarily reporting on the meetings he has been conducting with municipalities within Beaufort County. The second was a report by Danny Lucas, the Director of Development Services and acting airport manager for Jasper County. Among other things, he reported on the I-95 widening and the Jasper Ocean Terminal.
Thank you. Mr. Ames?
Yes, thank you. The next airport board meeting will be this Thursday at 1:30, and no report at this time.
Thank you. Community Services and Public Safety, Mr. Hawkins?
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
And when's your next meeting, Bill?
I believe in about 2 weeks. I'll check.
Next week.
Krista will know.
Just tell me next week, Bill. Okay. Public planning, Mr. Ames.
Thank you, Mayor. The next meeting will be this Thursday. It's an important meeting. The Public Planning Committee will be discussing the County Connect Bike and Ped 2021 plan. The town is being asked to incorporate its bike ped plans into that integrated countywide plan. Thank you.
Mr. Lennox.
Thank you, John. The Finance and Administrative Committee met this afternoon at 1 o'clock with 3 agenda items. The first was the annual report on the tax increment financing district. John Troyer explained it in detail. And the second, TIF maturity of the 10-year extension will be fiscal year 2025. The second item was a report on Hilton Head Island financials through October 30th. There appears to be no adverse trends. Revenue continues to be favorable. Third was a recommendation on a resolution to Town Council authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract securing fire rescue fleet updates. The committee voted unanimously to refer to Town Council, recommending that they consider favorably.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Tom. You know, at this time, I respectfully ask the citizens and members of the council to tone back the rhetoric on our strategic plan and the cultural plan. We're just doing damage to ourselves. The members of this council have worked very hard with Mr. Orlando in trying to make changes to the plan, make it suitable for all of us, make it suitable to the public, and achieve the goals this community needs. So if we can just tone back the rhetoric for a while, it would be greatly appreciated, both for the inside people and outside people. I thank you very much. Appearance by citizens. I'd like to remind our citizens of the town rules, your name, your address. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. And the decorum is very important. You always hear me talk about civility. Civility starts here, and I would appreciate all our speakers adhere to the civility rules. I understand today that we have a large number of people who are signed up to speak on the matter of the strategic plan and the Office of Cultural Affairs. Because of this, I want to tell you that I have placed the item on the agenda for the town meeting of the strategic plan on December 7th. When this matter was last discussed, a motion was made to rescind the plan's approval until additional information and clarification on the document could be provided. I have since met with all members of the council to get their thoughts on what the clarification should include. I have provided the comments that I received to the town manager, and he's working to incorporate them in a revised strategic plan. This will be presented on December 7th. I thank everybody for their patience, and I thank town council for the hard work in getting this done. Krista, do we have appearance of our citizens today?
Yes, sir, we do. This afternoon, we received 86 citizens comments via our public town hall, and 4 citizens had also submitted emails, which all will be made part of the record. At this time, we do have 22 citizens signed up to speak, 3 minutes for each citizen, with the first being Edwina Dunlap. Ms. Dunlap. Ms. Dunlap.
Hi, Krista. It's Edwina Dunlap.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Mayor,
please.
members of the town. Hi, Krista. It's Edwina Dunlap.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, members of the town. I think there's a delay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can. If you have any audio on in the background of the meeting, could you please turn that down? That will cause a delay.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Mayor, members of the town council, town manager, and staff, thank you for this opportunity for us to present issues at Islanders Beach Park and our request to return Islanders back to the exclusive use of Hilton Head residents as it was originally meant to be. Our 3 speakers today represent a much larger group of concerned Hilton Head residents asking for these requests. Islanders was originally intended for the use of Hilton Head resident vehicles with beach pass decals. However, several years ago, in order to obtain funds for beach renourishment, the town agreed to put 25 public parking meters at the park. This opened Islanders parking to vacationers and day trippers. When there are no meters available, many simply park in any available space. Low fines and little to no enforcement have encouraged people to ignore the rules and park in resident-only spaces. Social media shows that vacationers are encouraging other visitors to use Islanders for, quote, easy, cheap parking and great facilities. We were also surprised to find out that there are many beach pass decals sold to timeshare guests. Apparently, timeshare groups have been directing their guests to Islanders, and these guests are purchasing parking decals in increasing numbers, thus reducing the parking available for residents. The parking use problem has steadily gotten worse and reached a boiling point this past summer, which prompted the residents to organize and ask for your attention and help. Therefore, we are asking Town Council to implement some actions before Memorial Day. Specifically, number 1, issue a resolution ordinance that rededicates Islanders Beach Park for residents as a resident-only park facility. 2, tighten up the definition of Hilton Head Island resident in order to control the number of beach pass decals sold. This would include only permanent and second home residential property owners on the island, as well as long-term renters with a 6-month or longer lease. Note, a timeshare owner with 1 or 2 weeks does not meet the South Carolina legal definition of a resident. 3, do not allow decals to be issued to commercial vehicles, non-resident golf carts, or golf carts that cannot legally be driven to Islanders per South Carolina law. 4, remove the parking meters and convert those spaces to residents only. 5, prohibit commercial shuttle buses or non-decal vehicles from entering Islanders and dropping passengers off at the front. 6, increase the number of parking spaces for residents by 50 spaces. 7, significantly increase fines and enforce towing on an hourly basis for parking violations. And 8, just as you did last summer, have park entrance attendants for Islanders between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Thank you for your time. My teammates will follow to discuss the other 2 goals.
Thank you, Ms. Dunlap. Ms. Whaley, Ellen Whaley. Ms. Whaley.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, ma'am, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Whaley, and I'm going to discuss Goal 2, which is the safety and infrastructure issues at Islanders Park. The working group has discussed safety concerns and requests that the town seriously look at the heightened risk of increasingly large unmanaged volumes and pedestrian traffic that enters from the main road at the vehicle entrance to Islanders. Current foot traffic has been estimated about 400 plus daily during peak season based on observations from attendants at Islanders. The town must come to acknowledge that this larger unmanaged pedestrian traffic flow creates more safety issues both for those pedestrians, such as seniors and family groups in their wagons, as well as vehicular traffic as walkers spread out in the center of the road when using the park's vehicle entrance. This increasingly puts drivers, walkers, and the town at risk. The town council specifically for not recognizing and addressing this issue proactively. So now is the time to recognize and deal with the risk. It appears the greatest contributor to the pedestrian traffic issue is coming from local timeshare complexes, which estimated approximately 400 plus people per day through observation. New development that can increase pedestrian traffic another 400 to 500, reaching 1,000 from these units alone. So take a moment, visualize these numbers moving daily at peak season through a small Islanders Park entrance and its facilities. Because it's clear to even the most casual observer that the town park facilities are exhibiting signs of stress and overuse. Showers, restrooms, and boardwalk areas are more difficult and costly to maintain with this increased capacity. So we pose the question, were Islanders Park facilities even designed for a safe daily use of throughput that will now number over 800 people a day at this peak season? We recognize managing user capacity and pedestrian traffic require a different approach for the town to optimize local residents' use of this park. Town council must recognize this is not a novel problem, and many U.S. coastal and other communities have implemented recreational park controls to set aside a park for local use through the use of things such as IDs, gates, or attendants in order to safely control daily capacity. Things have changed on Hilton Head Island, and so most operational policies to ensure those who are local residents can enjoy these park resources safely. The town is now working on funding implementing new resident recreation facilities across the island. It should look to the future of islanders and implement proper user capacity controls to protect the safe use by residents who do approve of making these local investments for the long term, and we look forward to enjoying those facilities for their health and safe relaxation. We stand ready as a group to work with you and the town on solutions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Whaley. Mrs. Bittner, Sherry Bittner.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, please proceed.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sherry Bittner, and I wanted to briefly elaborate on the previous concern regarding timeshare foot traffic. The greatest contributor to the foot traffic issue is coming from the 6 timeshare complexes located across the street in Port Royal Village. As stated earlier, timeshare vacationers do not meet the South Carolina legal definition of a resident. The new timeshare complex getting ready to be built at 15 Wimbledon Court will add 166 units, which is going to greatly increase the foot traffic problem, which is already over 400 people per day. It is important to note that many of the timeshare vacationers from Port Royal Village have access to the Westin facilities, to include beach access. In an attempt to reclaim Islanders Park back to the residents, we are simply diverting timeshare foot traffic to the proper access point. The residents of Hilton Head believe that now is the time to address the timeshare foot traffic problem. I'd like to conclude with our final goal, which is to create a strong message to the general public that Islanders Beach Park is a resident-only park. First, for the town to place large visible signage installed at the immediate entrance of Islanders parking lot stating, "Beach Pass decals only, towing strictly enforced, no pedestrian traffic." The second request is to change the town website to clearly reflect the restricted resident-only access to Islanders Park. Third, improve tourist information on how to get to the beaches. For example, the town will send letters to the timeshare POAs informing them that Islanders Beach Park is a resident-only park, while also providing information on public parks for their timeshare guests to use. We want to be clear. The residents of Hilton Head are in no way denying anyone's right to enjoy the beaches. The tourists simply need to be made aware that there are many access points on the island to the beaches, and that Islanders Park is restricted to residents. To assist tourists in getting to the beaches, the Breeze Trolley, which has multiple stops on Follyfield Road, can easily take tourists to other public access points. The residents believe it is inherently unfair that tourists have the luxury of walking through Islanders Park to get to a beach, while most residents must drive 20 minutes to get there. The residents believe it is reasonable to expect that tourists can also drive or trolley to designated public parking to get to the beaches. On behalf of the residents of Hilton Head, we would like to wrap up by asking the question, are residents a priority to the town or not? As so many residents have said, all we're asking for is a small slice of the island to call our own. This is the town council's opportunity to show the residents of Hilton Head that our needs are important. We sincerely want to thank you for your interest and support in this important issue.
Thank you, Ms. Bittner. Next, we have Terry Finger.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is Terry Finger. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Terry Finger, 25 McIntosh Road in Spanish Wells. First off, let me thank the mayor for having the Yankees emblem front and center at the Lantern Parade. I can't, being a Long Island boy, that makes me feel good. I am here speaking on behalf of the Follyfield Property Owners Association. That is an 85 lot and home subdivision. You all know exactly where that is. There are 11 lots in Follyfield that front the ocean. In that community is Fiddler's Cove, Island Club, Hilton Head Beach and Tennis. As you know from the Walker Consultants study, there's 54 parking spaces at the Follyfield Beach, and there are 160 spaces at Islanders. You've heard from a number of owners about Islanders Park. I will try not to reiterate anything that they have said. My clients are very concerned about the 166 unit timeshare development that has been approved on the old Port Royal Tennis Complex, and the traffic issues that and Islander Beach Club generates in and of itself. We have a couple requests that we would like to respectfully make to council and to the planning staff. First off, for this 166 new unit timeshare, please make their entry go through Port Royal and not down Follyfield Road. For our Islanders going to the Islanders Beach Club, please make their entry the same way through Port Royal and not down Folly Beach Road, which is already very congested. By saying Port Royal, I'm not saying they have to go into Port Royal Plantation. You all know they go down toward the Weston and head down that way. One other item I'd like to mention is that we would like to request that trolleys and buses not be authorized to drop people off at Islander Beach Club all day during the season. I guess one of our primary suggestions would be is that we would encourage the town to take a step back, look at this 8+ acres where this 166 units are going, and perhaps think about buying that facility. We have a great tennis academy down in Harbortown, the Stan Smith's Academy. It would be great to have a first-class location in the middle of the island where everybody could find it. It would improve tennis on the island, and it certainly would give us a better use of that facility. Again, I'd like to thank Mayor and Council. I know that from a recent article in the Island Packet that you are studying these issues very carefully. The Walker and consultant study was done very well. It tells you that we have beach access issues. We'd ask you to please not generate a lot more traffic on Follyfield Road. We've got too much already. Again, thank you. I appreciate your attention this afternoon.
Thank you, Terry. Next, sir, we have Martin Lash. Mr. Lash?
Hello, Martin Lash, Ward 1. I just wanted to thank the mayor and Mark Orlando for meeting with members of the Arts Council yesterday. From what I hear, this was very productive. I urge Town Council and the manager to do a better job in the future with communications with arts leaders. So I'm glad they are open to establishing a better working relationship going forward. Regarding EDI training, Councilwoman Becker has been distributing an EDI training video when participants were told it would be a safe space and confidential. Regardless of FOIA, that act alone seems anti-community to me. This has put organizations and residents of this town who took the training in a perilous position because she's been inciting people with misleading statements on what EDI training is. This could have been handled through proper channels with a bit of patience, but instead, she chose this route. Secondly, EDI training is required to work almost anywhere on Wall Street. It's required to work in many large corporations. It's required to receive grants for many nonprofit organizations. This is not CRT. Beyond not only being required, it's also beneficial in a multitude of ways. I would say that some members of council could benefit from this training. It should be considered in the future. Having a member of council denigrating a $40 million a year industry and exposing members of it to potential safety and concerns and disruptions is irresponsible. Not every organization can set aside $1 million of taxpayer money in order to increase security so that they feel safe to conduct business. In over 25 years of working for the arts on Hilton Head, I don't think I've seen a person, let alone a town council member, taking actions destructive to the arts. This has resulted in the targeting of town employees and arts organizations with blatant lies and attempts to defund them. As for changing the organizational structure of the Arts Council and the OCA, I feel this would be a big mistake. The successes of this year's Crescendo Festival, including the Lantern Parade, Jazz Fest, the Crescendo Kickoff, and other events, shows just how well things are working. The island is developing signature cultural events. To destroy that momentum would be a travesty. Lastly, vigilance committees and militia groups are taking root in Beaufort County. Council needs to stand together against these groups when they threaten our peaceful island culture, not be inciting them. I urge you to pass an OCA plan acceptable to the arts and cultural community by working together. I also urge council to communicate better with arts and cultural organizations going forward so we can avoid future instances like this and push forward in a more united manner. Thank you to all the members of council for attending the various Crescendo events in the past 2 weeks. We look forward to your support at next year's event. Thanks for the time to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Lash. Krista Prince. Ms. Prince. Krista, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you, Krista. I'm Risa Prince, 26 Marketplace Drive. Please note these comments reflect only my personal beliefs, not those of any of the groups I usually represent. Elected officials who abuse or engage in actions that appear to abuse their power for personal gain or to promote their personal political agenda are breaching their oaths of office and violating their commitment to their constituents. The last town council regular meeting agenda included discussion of property purchase on Bradley Circle. Notably, this is Ms. Becker's street. Once a historic Gullah neighborhood, it has been turned into mega mansions, except for one property. A town staff member was directed to contact that property owner with an office to purchase this one remaining Gullah-owned property on Bradley Circle. This property is not on the market, nor is it a strategic target for the town. The public has a right to know if council is considering diverting funds from equitably beneficial town projects to further benefit Ms. Becker's personal interests. Ms. Becker's other recent moves, in her role as a town council member, she spoke at a partisan political rally with known ties to a white supremacist group. She called for the town to fund a charter school with her chosen religious curriculum, which would divert funds from our public schools. And she broadly distributed a video that puts the town at risk of a class action lawsuit as it violates the privacy of participants, all of which are causing tremendous concerns for our residents. Today, others are talking about the damage she is bringing to our arts and culture economy. Who benefits from these actions? As far as I can see, only Ms. Becker does, personally and politically. And who is harmed? The public she is trying to divide, and you, Mr. Mayor, and other town council members, by putting you directly in the crosshairs. As South Carolina voters do not have the power to recall an existing elected official, the public must rely on those who surround the abusers to curtail their impact. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Orlando, and council members, I urge you to resist all future attempts to push a personal agenda at the expense of the community's greater interests. We ask you to just say no and stop appeasing Ms. Becker.
Just a comment here. I've asked before, and I've asked 1,000 times. Let's have a lot more civility here. I understand people's opinions. I understand people's opinions, but we should be as civil as possible without attacking an individual. I understand your feelings. Thank you very much.
Sir, next we have Jane Joseph on the line. Ms. Joseph?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today as chairman of the Arts Council of Hilton Head. The citizens of Hilton Head Island want a strong town strategic plan, including an Office of Cultural Affairs section that speaks to the value represented in our plan, revitalizing and modernizing our economy while building diversity and inclusion. The OCA helps to grow the arts and cultural business sector, which brings in annually over $5 million in state and local tax revenue and the equivalent of over 900 jobs. It pumps $39 million of spending into our island economy. I have been saddened to watch decades of work by town council, staff, and hundreds of volunteers be attacked. To accuse the OCA and Arts Council of a conspiracy to sneak critical race theory into the schools under the guise of art classes is a misrepresentation of the truth and disrespects the OCA director, arts community, and the town and school volunteers. The volunteers in school teach art, period. Damaging these programs would primarily hurt one group, our town's children. In 2020, the town passed an ordinance to establish a new arts council to support the OCA director. This was approved 7-0 with no discussion. The Arts Council is providing just that kind of support. Greatly needed staff support to the OCA director, allowing more to be accomplished by the community. To see what the OCA's role in diversity, equity, and inclusion really is, one only needs to look at the Lantern Parade this past Saturday evening. Thousands of people, every age group, gender, ethnicity, ability, and neighborhood participated and felt welcome. This is an example of the real agenda of the OCA. We will not allow a small minority to harm this agenda. The Arts Council will continue to work with the Town Council and staff. The intention of the Arts Council and the OCA was and is to pull together our citizens and our arts and cultural organizations for the betterment of our community, and this will continue. The Arts Council appreciates the town's continuing support of the arts and cultural organizations. Thank you so much for your time and support.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. Our next caller is Dr. Rozelle Wilson. Dr. Wilson.
For the betterment of the community, and this will continue.
Go ahead, Dr.
Council appreciates the town.
She's still speaking.
No, turn the volume down behind you. We're on to you now, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, Town Manager, and staff. My name is Rozelle Wilson, and I live at 7 Bradley Beach Road, Hilton Head Island, and I thank you for this opportunity. I'm also a member of the Relentless Pursuit of Excellence Committee that was submitted with our plan to the state of South Carolina and is now considered an award-winning plan. I have already written to you each in a letter specifically addressing the comments that were made concerning the equity, diversity, inclusion discussions that occurred in the spring of 2021, a meeting that was by invitation only. Today, I add that the strategic plan of the Office of Cultural Affairs is in accordance with the award-winning Our Plan, already approved by Town Council, including the citizens of Hilton Head and the Planning Commission, and it includes equity and inclusion. Secondly, I would address that training for equity, diversity, and inclusion is actually good business, and good business is central to the town of Hilton Head's economy. A cloud of racism is not good business, and we have been introduced with a cloud by not knowing what EDI or CRT is. A bombshell, a live grenade has been thrown in our midst. And other people are beginning to pick up this banner of false patriotism. Please do not allow the fear-induced narrative to derail the strategic plan of the Office of Cultural Affairs or the award-winning Our Plan of Hilton Head. The clouds of division, dog whistling, and grenade throwing are not good for the economy. We base our lives on this economy, and it brings people from many locations, many stages of life, and many capacities together in our midst. Our branding is tourism, cultural and historical, as well as recreational. Please adopt the current strategic plan of OCA and let's move forward. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Luana Sellers, Ms. Sellers. Luana, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Luana Graves, and I would like to share with you an African word. The word is Sankofa, and it's based on the African proverb that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. As a Black woman addressing you, I should not have to teach nor remind anyone about our nation's past. But in remembering our past, we should be able to learn from it. Silence or ignoring our past is consent. In thinking about what I would say today, unfortunately, I felt that I needed to remind the council that not only is there a significant Gullah community on Hilton Head that deserves to live and be respected in an inclusive community, but the island as a whole is diverse. Our diversity is what makes us special and the #1 island that we promote. With that being said, I never thought that I would be concerned about or discussing racism or the removal of diversity training as a topic in a place that is described as paradise. I never thought the conversations, even difficult conversations, about diversity and inclusion would be stricken from the town's plan. Yes, our plan. I have experienced racism all of my life, sometimes subtle and sometimes blatant. Ignoring or wishing racism away just allows it to grow, fester, and return in the same or greater form. I thought that Hilton Head was better than this, that this is a place where divisive behavior and polarization are issues for other areas of the country where ignorance exists. I thought that this was an island, was a place where conversations about our differences were meant to grow and evolve from, not turn back the hands of time, but the opportunity to understand each other in unity, not division. Your discussions and ultimate decision on enabling DEI training to be a part of the arts community, as well as our community, is not and should not be discarded. If Hilton Head is to remain a community for all of us, then it should be a community where all of us are welcomed and included. If the removal vote stands, it will be an action that will not be good for our community and the consequences cannot be undone. Culture, diversity, and inclusion is valuable to all of us. My culture, the very fabric of my identity, is important, as is yours. I began with telling you about the Sankofa. Depending on what definition you find, it also means that it is not taboo to go back and fetch that which you have forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sellers. Dr. Gloria Holmes. Dr. Holmes? Dr. Holmes? Dr. Holmes, are you on? Dr. Holmes?
She's on, but she is not unmuting.
Okay.
Wait, her. She has to unmute.
Dr. Holmes, you've got to unmute your phone, your line. Can you unmute? Dr. Holmes?
Move on. Thank you.
We'll come back. Nancy Contes. Dr. Holmes, go ahead. Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Okay, good
Your
afternoon. I'm
background
Dr.
noise.
Nancy Contes. I live in HHP. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address council. I am here today to speak to two issues. The first is I'm sorry, what? Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address council. I am here today to speak
Your
to two
background
issues.
audio.
The first is okay, so I pressed *6 and now I've taken off Facebook sound. Do you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I need to start again. If you could reset the clock. Apologies.
Please proceed. We have. Thank you.
I'm Nancy Contes. I live in HHP. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address council. I'm here today to speak to two issues. The first is the need to approve the OCA strategic plan ASAP, inclusive of strategies for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the second is to provide feedback on the DEI training video and to correct the statements made by Councilwoman Becker about that video. I learned about the rescinding of the vote for the OCA strategic plan in an Island Packet article of October 8th. I then reviewed the council meeting session of October 5th. Ms. Becker claimed she had viewed a video of DEI training offered by the OCA to Hilton Head Island arts cultural organizations. She further stated that it was quote unquote nothing but CRT and that horrendous comments had been made about whites. She offered to make the video available to anyone who wanted to see it. I got it and watched all 3 hours to evaluate her claims for myself, and I found that Ms. Becker's comments were inaccurate and irresponsible. This video was a very typical training in DEI with the primary goal of having arts cultural organizations consider how they could diversify their organizations, their audiences, and to provide more of the history of this island, in particular the Gullah history, to residents and tourists. Horrible, right? No, not horrible. About 20 minutes, if that, was spent on particular pieces of history that illustrated how Blacks had been disabled from gaining the generational wealth that whites have had. Facts like these help to underscore the need to raise up the various groups for which we know so little history, be they Black, Asian, Jewish, Latinx, etc. Learning the history of others enables us to talk with each other about it. Without that, we all just continue to live in our separate realities. The bulk of the video was spent in breakout sessions for the arts representatives. I saw a very positive series of discussions. The outcome was the sharing of concrete ideas for enhancing offerings to our island residents and tourists, including uplifting the history of the Gullah here. None of what has been proposed in the OCA strategic plan or in the DEI training provided by the OCA would lead any reasonable human to conclude that arts professionals are going to teach CRT in our schools. This has nothing whatsoever to do with that. So I'm asking that you again vote as a majority in favor of the OCA strategic plan inclusive of DEI training. As most of you know, funding organizations like the National Endowment for the Arts require that grant applicants provide a statement on DEI training. That fact, along with the economics of what our island arts cultural organizations provide to our community, should compel your positive vote. The arts and cultural organizations here are so key to the satisfaction residents and tourists experience by being here. Let's not be held hostage to conspiracy theories. Raising up diversity, including Gullah history, is what our arts organizations should be all about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Contes. Next, we have Louise Cohen. Ms. Cohen, if you're on, please make sure your background is muted. Your background feed is muted. Ms. Cohen, please proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, please proceed.
Okay. Good evening, town council members. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, please make sure your background noise is muted.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Louise Miller Cohen. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll start over. Good evening, everybody. I am Louise Miller Cohen. Thank you so very much for this opportunity to speak this evening. Okay, my address is 3 Farmers Club Road here on Hilton Head Island. I am the founder and director of the Gullah Museum of Hilton Head Island. Our mission is to keep the culture alive and to share it with the world. We are asking that the Office of Cultural Affairs plan be reinstated as it was. And of course, we would like to meet with the Art Council, or the Art Council would like to meet with the town leadership. Because going forward, we would like to continue to work together in unity and love, so Hilton Head Island will continue to be that one island, one beloved community that it always been. We thank the town council for working with us to help us to grow our celebration, to cause people to want to come to Hilton Head, to want to experience the culture. And we have seen a great turnaround since the Office of Cultural Affairs have been working with us. The typical example was at our 5th annual Gullah Food Festival on the 30th of October. The number have changed from 200 to over 1,100 people attend that event. So we hope and pray that we will continue to work with this, the love that we have been working with here, working together, that we will continue that, and we will let nothing come between us or separate us. I read a comment, a negative comment about the artwork that's hanging on the fence, the murals, the beautiful murals that we get so many positive comments from our visitors that draw people to our site. We get so many positive comments about that. So we, as a people, we are stronger than that, to let people bring us down by saying negative things about us. And we always say it's not what people call you, it's what you answer to. So what I'm saying to the council and to everybody, all of us here on Hilton Head Island, is let's continue to work together in unity and love, and let's move forward like God would have us to do. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. God bless you.
Next, we have Ibrahim Abdul Malik on the phone. Ibrahim? Ibrahim, are you on the line? If you are, I need you to mute your background noise, mute your Facebook feed.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ibrahim Abdul Malik. I'm hoping that you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
I would like to say that I support the diversity training and education, but I believe that we need to maybe change our approach to this type of education, because all too often lines of defense are drawn even before we start conversations. I lean to the Quran as a source of guidance. And in the Quran, I read, to all the people, we created you from male and female and made you into nations, races, and tribes in order that you may come to know each other, come to recognize each other, and to have a value for each other. And surely the most noblest of all of you in the sight of God is the one who is most regardful. And we brand ourselves as one island, one community. I think it would be more accurate if we were to say that we were one island of diverse communities. So there's a lot of diversity in the communities on Hilton Head. There are a lot of tribes on Hilton Head, and there certainly is a lot of tribalism on Hilton Head. Our diversity, however, which includes our difference in thinking, is not something that should isolate us from each other, but in fact, we should embrace that diversity with respect, appreciation, and hospitality towards each other, rather than hostility and a lack of regard. And how are we going to embrace each other without genuine acknowledgement and genuine recognition of each other? Again, the most honorable amongst any of us are those who are most regardful. I say we should have the training, but before we have the training, let's make a commitment to change our approach, because that's where I believe the problem lies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. We have Shodan Lee on the line. Miss Lee, if you could make sure your Facebook feed is muted, turned off, I'd appreciate it.
I think she has done mute you. But it was text message was really fast.
Miss Lee, I need you to turn off your background information, your feed.
Genuine acknowledgement and genuine recognition of each other.
Shodan?
Can you hear me? I'm gonna go.
What do you like?
Shodan?
Shift.
She is. Okay, moving on.
Thank you, Krista.
Sir, I'm going to go on and move to Miss Laking, Miss Lisa Laking. She's just joining the call. Miss Laking, if you have your Facebook feed on in the background, please make sure you turn that down.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Miss Laking, please make sure your Facebook feed is turned off.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please make sure your Facebook feed is turned off.
Krista, that is Miss Lee on the phone.
Oh, that's Miss Lee. Miss Lee, make sure your Facebook feed is turned off and go ahead with your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Town Council. I am an immigrant, so I support diversity and inclusion. However, I came from communist China and I condemn critical race theory, which is rooted in Karl Marx's critical theory. To help you decide on the Office of Culture Affairs Office's strategies on December 7th, here are my thoughts on the diversity, equity, and inclusion program as promoted by the Office of Culture Affairs. Number one, theoretically speaking, the Office of Culture Affairs has not been promoting critical race theory as championed by Derek Bell of Harvard Law School in the 1980s. However, by denying any linkage between diversity, equity, inclusion, and CRT is gaslighting the public. The ideologies behind Office of Culture Affairs DEI strategy resembles the core of critical race theory, which posits that racism is not just the product of individual bias, but is embedded in social, cultural, and legal systems and policies, which is so-called systemic racism. Just to quote a few bullets from the Office of Culture Affairs website on racial equality principles. This is a direct quote from the website. The social construct of race in the US is deeply and painfully ingrained in our national and personal psyches. Number two, quote, enhancing our understanding of how systems of power and oppression operate in both daily and larger societal contexts. I encourage you to read the entire website. My number two comment is the 1964 Civil Rights Act outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, and later sexual orientation and gender identity. If any employer in the arts community or town government officials have violated the Civil Rights Act, they need to be held accountable. Instead of using taxpayer dollars to create new policies that are creating division in our community. Based on the last decade of FBI crime data, there's not a single race-related hate crime in Hilton Head Island. This is another problem with diversity, equity, inclusion training, or CRT. It's based on storytelling and feelings instead of evidence and facts. Number three, the art community, like all private businesses, can get DEI certificate online. It took me just 1 minute and find 12 DEI training programs. They can get certificate for less than $100 or $200. So there's no reason for the taxpayers to foot their bills. Should we do the same for the restaurant business, for all the private corporations? Number four, the concept of equality, the concept of equity only often associates with equal outcome. I'm done? Am I down? Oh.
Yes, ma'am, that's your 3 minutes. Thank you.
But I have 55 seconds, I thought. I still have 55 seconds. I just have last one. The concept of equity often associates with equal outcome in economic terms and fairness in social justice construct. But how does society determine fairness?
Next, sir, I'll call on Dr. Holmes. Dr. Holmes, you're on the line now. Gloria, are you there?
Hello?
Go ahead, Dr.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Gloria Holmes. I live in Port Royal, and I've been a professor of education for close to 25 years, and I've been a teacher for more years than that. Over the years, I've learned many things, and I still have a lot to learn. But one thing that I have learned is to recognize ignorance when I see it, even when ignorance masquerades as patriotism or nationalism. There's nothing wrong with ignorance except when you embrace it instead of trying to eliminate it by educating yourself. The vitriolic critique of diversity, equity, and inclusion training and critical race theory that has blossomed in our community is a perfect example of the damage done by ignorance and ignorant people. This critique is a smokescreen, a dangerous diversion meant to conceal, delude, and deny the reality of endemic racism in America's past and present. It is really censorship, masquerading as free speech, and demonstrates how unbridled power can subvert efforts to unify a community through a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The local discussion about critical race theory has devolved into a power play about who controls the narrative rather than a legitimate discussion about how we can support brave conversations and power sharing in our community. As a matter of fact, this controversy is a perfect example why this community needs training in diversity, equity, and inclusion. The current local and national debates also reveal that some are trapped in their own ignorance because most of the strident arguments against critical race theory reveal that the opponents can continue to embrace, even wallow in ignorance and disseminate misinformation despite demonstrable objective proof that critical race theory is taught in law schools, the university level, and not in public schools. One of the things that I want to make sure I get in is that when people say that they are concerned about hurting the feelings of white children, it has never been stated that there is some concern about what Black children feel when these discussions of racism are. Because racism is not theoretical. It's certainly not theoretical to the people who experience it every day. And I would like to invite you to take a look at Sesame Street's town hall on race. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Lisa Laking. Miss Laking?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
I just wanted to say that the confusion going on this call is proof of why we need to be back in town hall having these meetings. The mayor came out on August 17th and declared a state of emergency that is still ongoing, and it's completely unnecessary. When the information, the data was released, and even the Island Packet put out an article stating that the surge is ending as Beaufort County cases plummeted. Even in the speakers earlier today, kind of dancing around the good news that there's no emergency. There is no reason to be using a state of emergency to continue to lock the Hilton Head residents out of our town hall and to be doing all of these virtual meetings and hybrid meetings, which is, as I said, in person on August 17th, it's elitist. There are people who have no choice but to go out into this community in person every single day to earn their paychecks, to put food on their tables. And the people in our town council, you guys aren't above any of us, and this needs to be brought to an end immediately. I would also say that I watched the 3 hours as well, and of the video that's being discussed on this call. There are several issues with it, even if you don't get into the weeds about the topic. There were $3,000 of taxpayer money used to fund that workshop, and it was used to hire a facilitator by the name of Jorge Ceballos, who was fired from his position at Kellogg Community College for several reasons. People can look it up on their own, but he was the one facilitating that. And in the call, he expresses how he could be his more radical self, or on the workshop, he did that. So this isn't just about training and awareness. This is about indoctrination, and they admitted, I was looking for something to be constructive about our local community and what we could do to elevate and really highlight the history of this island and everything that the Gullah community deserves to be highlighted, because it is so important to this island. That is not what came out of that workshop. It was a lot of fluff and not a lot of action and not a lot of results. And at the end, they concluded they pretty much can't do anything about us adults, but they can go after the kids. They've got to start in kindergarten. So I really think we need to take a step back. Everybody should get the information, but town council is obligated to define these terms and be good stewards of our money and how it's spent, and the type of people they're hiring to train up the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laking. And finally, sir, we have Mr. Hoagland, Skip Hoagland.
Krista, you have Ms. Gray on the line?
I apologize. I went right over. Ms. Gray, go ahead. I apologize. You're on the queue. Sorry.
Great, thank you. My name is Janice Gray. I'm currently a resident in Indigo Run, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak today. I moved here in 1980, and so for the last 40 years, I've been very involved in a variety of organizations. In that 40 years, I've served and provided leadership. I was a CPA on the island. I had my own practice. I worked with individuals. I worked with businesses. My two boys were born here in the hospital. They went through the public school. I was involved with the schools. So they settled here as adults. So I'm here to stay and have a vested interest in the future of Hilton Head Island. My current involvement was the Art League of Hilton Head, and I had to write grants and present at the different committees the value of the organization. I had to come up with the economic impact and present that, and the town thought that they provide value. They've supported the Art League over the years, and they've determined that they had great value. And for now 50 years, the Art League has been on the island and celebrating that anniversary next year. I also served on the Arts and Cultural Strategic Planning Committee that was appointed by the town, and we had to determine the arts and cultural impact on the island, and it became tremendous results. And so the town took that our recommendation, and they created the Arts and Cultural Affairs Department, hired Jen, very qualified in arts management, and she has done a bang-up job. There's tremendous value to the arts and culture on this island. I'm speaking up today because I am so disappointed in my town council representative in saying what I believe are misleading, untrue, and inflammatory statements. And I cannot stand by and let that go without speaking up. It's a tremendous value to this community. We are the #1 island on the continent. We continue to do that. We have a great council. We have great government. We have great people. We have great volunteers. Our schools, I mean, we've got everything going for us. And to have this misinformation derailing and interrupting these great services that the town provides is just something I can't stand by and not speak up about. So I hope that the town will continue to support, and I think they will through our Office of Cultural Affairs, and keep our island #1. And thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. And finally, sir, our last person is Skip Hoagland, Mr. Hoagland.
Afternoon. Mr. Lennox, Bill Miles Chamber DMO debacle that you AIM spearheaded with other town fraudsters is coming to an end. You lost trying to prevent me from speaking and others as a non-resident. All that did was expose your own corrupt conduct. As I recall, Sheriff Tanner told you to stop trying to break the law, violate the First Amendment, and abuse his deputies to stop speakers. Mr. Lennox, you lost again when you and your fellow council members asked ethically challenged Josh Gruber to pay a hired legal gun, lawyer Danny Crow, to render a fraudulent legal opinion saying the town did not have to comply to my FOIA and other people's ATAX FOIA, giving the town an excuse to reject compliance on all the tax funds illegally issued to shyster Bill Miles, so Bill Miles and the chamber could continue lining his pockets with illicit profits from the use of our tax funds. He called it his secret sauce. That's outrageous. Lennox, you have lost yet again. Now the state authority, Turk, has come a knocking, meaning you have to comply to my FOIA and also get Miles' accounting and hand it over to Turk and any other state authority who wants to know where these millions of tax dollars handed to Bill Miles has disappeared. This includes over $1 million in ATAX funds taken to Canada, as well as all the illegal advertising profits Bill Miles stuffed in his pockets. And Mr. Lennox, you were the ringleader on the fraudulent, illegal, invalid 5-year chamber DMO contract that allows an outrageous $500,000, $600,000 salary pay package for chamber crook Bill Miles. You schemed this contract with highly dishonest lawyers Finger, Alfred, Coltrane, and Gruber, currently under ethics investigation, and Diane Bush. Wasn't it intentional that this contract limited full accounting provisions? If not, how do you explain why they weren't included? This contract is null and void, and now you must provide the ATAX accounting to Turk, and I will also FOIA Turk to confirm that there's no more monkey business from you, Mr. Lennox. I have not forgotten that you and other officials schemed to give your fellow council member Likens $200,000 in tax funds to use for a private owned lawsuit issued as a bank loan by the lying town lawyer Alfred. This was an illegal and criminal act, Mr. Lennox, and will result in a $10 million damage lawsuit against you and the town and all involved. Mr. Lennox, you also illegally used tax funds to become a chamber member. That was a quid pro quo. Mr. Lennox, I have no idea what bank you owned or where you came from. All I know is I'm glad I did not bank or do business with you. You might be the most crooked, corrupt scoundrel on Hilton Head Island, and that's really saying something. Do you have any comments, Mr. Lennox?
Mr. Hoagland, if you continue to make personal attacks on any of the council members, we will not allow you to speak. If you have evidence of anything, please file a lawsuit, but you will not be allowed to come in the future and criticize and say nasty things, or anything you want to say against a council member. I will not allow in the future. If you want to sue us, please do that, but you cannot come in and attack the council members. Thank you and goodbye.
Sir, that concludes appearance by citizens.
New business 11A.
Mr. Mayor, before you begin moving on, well, that was a long time, and we all had to take our time to listen carefully. I was named a couple of times in a few of those comments that I would like to address. First thing that I'd like to address is there was one caller who has now twice gotten onto the call in a public meeting and said things that are absolutely untrue. She has said things against me, against my intentions, misquoted me, and that needs to stop as well. Beyond that, I want to say a couple of things that addresses some of the confusion out there. In 100% of my heart and soul, Hilton Head Island has been the most important place that I've ever been. And we returned here after bringing our children here for many, many years for vacation to create a home and a life, and to get involved in every way we could to make this island even a better place. There was a comment made, and I'm going to use others' words because I thought they were so powerful. Ms. Cohen said that this is the way Hilton Head has always been, a loving, peaceful place of diversity, of inclusion, and she's right. No one has said anything different. What brings people to Hilton Head, and the reason we call it paradise, is because of those things. Hilton Head is a loving, peaceful, cohesive, diverse community. It's one island. Someone questioned recently, not before this controversy, what one island, one community meant. Well, what it means is just that. It couldn't be more simple. We pull together. Abraham said it correctly. You work together. We always have, and I believe we always will. That's not what this discussion about the strategic plan is about at all. It's not about doing away with culture and arts. Everybody loves and adores and values the work that's done through the Office of Cultural Affairs, the events, the engagement that the smaller arts communities are having with the larger public. That cohesiveness is important, and the director has done a good job on those. That's not what this is about. It's not about tearing apart and racist one person against the other. We're all one community here, and we've all believed that for a very long time. It's the way it's always been. Ms. Cohen is correct. Her words were powerful. I would ask that we stick to what the points are, and we not drag people around through the mud and misrepresent them or our community. There's a reason we're the #1 island in the world, and it's because of our beaches and golf and all that, but it's not that at all. It's about our people. It's about our history, and it's about our love for our community. So I wanted to make that clear. I could go on and on and on. I'm just so frustrated with all of the misrepresentations.
We appreciate you trying to clear it up, Tammy. Any other comment? What Tammy said, talking about? All right, move on. Okay. New business. Consideration resolution authoring the town manager to enter into a contract securing fire rescue fleet updates. Is there a motion? Second? Okay, discussion among council members. Is the chief going to give a report?
If anyone would give a report on this, it would be Mr. Troyer. I see him
Both chief
logged
and-
in. I know Chief Tadlock's also here, but Mr. Troyer.
Yes, Finance Committee recommended this. There was acknowledgement that of the timing issue and the uncomfortableness of making this decision, but they did weigh that with the opportunity to lock in savings and lock in the availability for the appropriate fire rescue equipment that would best fit our fire rescue team. And so Finance Committee recommended authorization for town manager to enter into a contract.
Comment by members of the council. Okay. Is there any comments by member of the public? Yes, Tom.
I have no citizens outside.
Yes, Tom.
I would comment that there were 6 council members present at the Finance and Administrative Committee where this was discussed. We heard a presentation from Chief Tadlock. We had some questions for John Troyer. The presentation was acceptable. The questions were answered to our satisfaction as well. Hence our recommendation to the full council.
There have been no citizens that have signed up to speak on this. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
With that, can we have any other questions on this? With that, can we have call the vote, Krista?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harkins,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Support the motion.
Mr. Ames,
Yes.
Mrs. Becker,
Yes.
Mr. Leonard,
Yes.
Ms. Jennifer, Mayor McCann.
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries.
11B, discussion on the beach master planning and facilities update. Mr. Lando, you and Mr. Buckle are going to comment.
Yes, I will defer to Mr. Bucklew at first. I know Jeff spoke about this recently at committee level, and he's coming forward with some recommendations. So I think the best thing we can do is just allow Jeff to get into his presentation and overview the plan. Jeff, thank you, sir.
All right, Mark and Mr. Mayor, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to run over the presentation we did at the committee. May have a new audience out there, and I want to thank everyone that has supplied us with comments and input. That's part of the process. That's what we are trying to do, is understand what the folks want out there. So let me share this. Whoops. Hold on, share my screen. Trying to do it. Hold on one second, forgive me. Whoops. There we go. Can everyone see that?
Are you having trouble sharing your screen?
Yeah, is it shared now?
No, we don't see it, sir.
I can share it if you'd like, maybe.
There we go.
There we go.
We see your dog, Jeff. A wonderful dog.
Oh.
Thank you.
I think the dog is excited.
All right. Yeah, the purpose and objective of this is to improve the overall function and experience of the users at our town beach parks. And as we've heard from many of our citizens, number one priority is Islanders Beach Park. The strategic plan, we held a workshop on a few weeks ago. There are 3 initiatives in that plan directly related to the beach park operations. We have a beach operations master plan that we're working on. The parking master plan held some public engagement meetings yesterday, and to improve the beach shuttle service. Let's see. Yeah, the town beach parks we have at Hilton Head, we have Alder Lane, Coligny, Berks, Dreesen, Follyfield, Islanders, Fish Hall, and Mitchellville, going from south to north. Here's the South Island Beach Park. Alder, Coligny, Low Country Celebration, we have parking. Up at the Mid-Island, we have Berks Beach, which includes a lot of Chaplin Park, folks, beach-bound folks park there as well. Dreesen Beach Park, Follyfield Beach Park, Islanders Beach Park, and then Mitchellville and Fish Hall up on the north end. Things we've done this year. This summer, once Mark got here, he assessed operations at the beach parks, wanted to see how we could do better. And so we developed a beach operations team. This is a group of 4 staff employees devoted to nothing but the beach. They may work on other parks in the case of staffing issues or an emergency, but basically they're devoted every day, all day to the beach parks. We started a beach ambassadors program this year. We had never done that, and we put it together pretty quickly. We hired mostly young people, students, and they were to politely engage the public, answer questions, help them with parking, whatever needs they had getting out to the beach. And the feedback we got was really positive. We think that was a good success, and we plan to grow that program next year. We hired professional security guards for parking management. I think going forward, when we do the parking master plan, we're going to get a vendor who will control all of that, including security guards. So we won't have individual contracts most likely going forward. The share program, which was something new we tried as well, where it's like the leave a penny, take a penny program. And we developed a space where folks could leave toys, beach chairs, etc., and use them as they wished. So again, very successful program. All of these initiatives, I think, were well received, and we plan to make them better going forward. Here's the beach operations team. Mark Robson is the manager. Keith Fallon is the supervisor, and we have two technicians, hide this, Nick O'Neill and Chuck Hall. So these four guys are all bright, energetic, hardworking guys, and I think folks will see a difference at our beach parks going forward. About Islanders Beach Park, this was the land was purchased in '92 and the park was constructed in '99. And as Ms. Dunlap stated, the intention was for this to be the Islanders Beach Park. We go back to some of the history here. 1999, Town Council wanted to eliminate beach park passing at Folly Field and move these spaces to Islanders, most of them that is, with 30 at Dries and 30 at Coligny. There was a resolution in '99 also that would cap beach pass parking to 20% of the total parking. That has implications with our beach management plan with DHEC and OCRM. We have a number of spaces we're to provide to the general public, and we want to keep that number and not let the beach pass spaces overtop that, so we're not meeting our minimums for the state. In '04, Town Council resolved to sell 2-year beach passes. That's really just to save work effort instead of having to do it every year, and to give folks a 2-year window to which they can buy and use those passes. And then in 2010, as you heard one of the speakers, Ms. Dunlap earlier, talk about the metered spaces being installed at Islanders. This was done to receive money from the state, in which we use for beach renourishment. And we are currently working with DHEC legal team to remove or relocate those spaces. And hopefully that will be resolved soon. And so there's 131 spaces there for the beach pass decal holders. Here's a shot. I apologize if you can't see it real well. The original Islanders Beach Park with the bathrooms and the facilities out here, and the parking spaces, the magenta or purple squares, spaces, rectangles you see there were added later. Getting into the park itself, here's the entrance. And I know some of the folks have mentioned the pedestrian access and how this has become a big problem. You can see right now that most beachgoers, especially if there's multiple people with their wagons and other materials they're dragging, walk down the middle of the road. And so for beach pass holders and vehicles trying to get to the park, this is an issue. I had put in the presentation about capital upgrades that if, and I should have conditioned this, but if foot traffic and bicycles are allowed and we're still eligible to go to the park after we resolve the definition of resident, then we would want to provide infrastructure and safe means for them to get into the park. So whether that's a sidewalk or a pathway or widened shoulders, what have you. Talking about that pedestrian access issue, how could it be handled if the residents, by the definition, wanted some means to get into the park? There may be ways we could do an ID card, etc. But that's one of the issues we will tackle going forward. And I just wanted to specify that the infrastructure improvements would be made if foot traffic is allowed to remain accessing the park. Here are some of the spaces. We use the pervious pavers and we have the spaces numbered. Here are some of the metered spaces. We have a playground tucked within mostly live oak maritime forest here. All nice facilities, safe and efficient, etc. But we would like to upgrade these, do better, bring them up to date. Like I say, things are 15, maybe 20 years old, and we'd like to improve upon those. Here's the bathroom facility. Again, yeah, nice facility, but it's a bit dated. So we would just like to improve and enhance all of the facilities here at Islanders. Interior of the bathroom. This is the, I guess, crawl space. You know, the building was built back in the late 90s to meet flood elevation. And so it was elevated, and over time, folks have used the underside here to park gators, beach access vehicles, etc. We've got some flooding issues that we will need to resolve with capital improvements. It's in a bit of a bowl and holds water, but some of the upgrades we plan to conduct out there would be some better drainage and getting that stormwater out to Folly Field. This is a temporary tent housing some of the Turtle Patrol vehicles, taking 2 spaces. Going forward, we would like to establish a better structure in the Chaplain area to let those folks get out onto the beach and free up these spaces for pass holders. This is the deck area as you lead out to the boardwalk. We have the showers here where folks can rinse off and clean up after the beach. Here you see kind of a variety of signs. We want to improve this to provide a better aesthetic. You know, we got different sizes, different fonts, etc. So we're trying to clean that up, make it more aesthetically appealing to folks. Here's the boardwalk out to the beach. And you will see at the end of this straight segment off to the right here, that's where we're going to build the overlook pavilion. That project has been bid. We're trying to get the contract in place. Construction shouldn't take too long, but that is going to be built over the winter, and it will come off of this bend in the boardwalk right here. This is the more old school Moby mat, blue, kind of more slick. We're going to upgrade this to a newer, better version, a heavier tan version that provides better traction and won't wrinkle, blow away as easily. And here you go where folks end up out on the beach. Citizens input. Yeah, we thank all the folks who provided input. I know Edwina and her colleagues have provided very succinct mission and desire statements, and we appreciate that. And we have those going forward that we're going to try to implement, and we'll come back with recommendations to council. But we also got several emails, and we appreciate that and urge folks to continue to provide input as we go forward. The issues to be addressed, we've put these into 4 categories. There's operations, there's maintenance, capital improvements, and then policy discussions. From the operations, you know, we will continue to do the seasonal security up front, and then the ambassadors. The parking master plan is going forward. That is a springtime initiative. Hopefully we will get that in place for next summer. We heard a lot of commentary about the need to do better marketing, PR, especially when the definition changes and there are restrictions, and folks will need to know, mostly the timeshare folks and other people. So we will do a better job of that. We will also promote the other parks. We want folks to enjoy the beach, of course, and we'll try to make that as clear as we can, where they can access public beach parks up and down the coast there. Sorry about that. Towing company rotation. Yeah, we want to make sure that we have, try to get local island vendors, and they will provide a debit or non-cash option for folks and make that easier if someone does happen to get towed. Also, the trash and litter contracts we have there, we will review scopes and make sure those are as specific and good as they need to be going forward. Maintenance, that's always something we're doing, keep the vegetation trimmed. We have contractors, as I said, we'll make sure they're doing their job and improve scopes as needed. Consistent site appurtenances, that came up last time at committee, talking about the aesthetics. We should have consistent, nice trash cans, signs, bollards, bike racks, etc. One of the ideas we received was a bike repair station for folks who may ride their bikes to the parks. Have a pump and some tools there that are tied to a post and folks could use. And then remove the meters, of course. That's something we're diligently working on and hoping to get resolved by the summer. Capital improvements, the scenic overlook, that's about to be under contract and going to be constructed this winter. Looking at the site as a whole, we've got a design team in-house. We're meeting to scope out the project, and we're going to get a survey, an updated survey of the entire site. But one of the goals in capital improvements here would be to add more parking spaces. A security guard station up near Folly Field at the gate. The sidewalk or pathway would only be done if we are to continue to allow foot and bicycle traffic. Remove the tent, build a permanent structure over at Chaplin. Pedestrian connection from the parking to the boardwalk area. We thought there might be opportunities in that playground area to get folks out to the boardwalk if they don't wish to go up near the bathroom, and opportunity for that. Improve signage. We want to make things clear. Everyone knows where to go, make it simple and convenient. The playground, as I showed, it's nice and all, but we think it could be better. So we're going to look at different equipment, surfaces, etc., and add to that. Another thing was, I think there's a nice area where we could build a tree house, different levels within the oaks. And yeah, I would like to mention at this time, back at the committee meeting, very good comment was brought up and repeated, was that if we're providing new or different or specific amenities here, but there's some exclusivity to this park, we should provide those somewhere else at other parks. And the tree house particularly, there is a great site up at Rowing and Sailing Center that I wish we could have afforded or put it up there when we were originally designing the park, but we couldn't. So anyhow, as we're going forward and developing the new CIP, I think looking at these amenities and trying to find other locations, the Rowing and Sailing Center would be a great spot for another treehouse type structure. And going back to the Overlook Pavilion, I've looked at a site at Dreesen Park, and very similar to Islanders, as the boardwalk comes out from the trees and there's an opening, I think there's a very good spot that we would likely be able to get permitted, and may try to build that. That boardwalk, the boardwalk at Dreesen is in probably the worst need of replacement. And so if that is a project going forward for a pavilion there, we would consolidate those and get economies and build the boardwalk and the pavilion both together in the off season. Some other capital amenities, fire pit and grilling stations, connecting that boardwalk to the playground area, improved lighting, uplighting, LED, eco-friendly. The boardwalk decking, replacing that. We're looking at considering different materials if it would be more cost effective and user friendly to switch out that decking. And the beach access matting, the Moby mat I described earlier, we're going to look to replace that. Storm drainage improvements, it's bad up near the building, and we can do some things to get that drainage out to the main ditch near Folly Field. Landscape design, I think there's opportunities, especially if we're adding parking spaces. We'll take another fresh look at that landscape design. Bathroom upgrades, fixtures, make sure things new and efficient, and security cameras just to make sure we have proper safety coverage out there at this park. The policy items, these are the ones we received the most input on, of course. The bus drop-off, timeshares, other types of, I guess, multifamily, other types of developments come drop people off here. And it's been a bit of an issue, for some of the residents. So we'd like to redirect them the proper signage at the front gate, a media website PR campaign to make sure folks are aware, and the security guards in the summertime to redirect any buses coming there to drop folks off. Vehicle access restrictions, you know, if there's no sticker, then this site would not be allowed for drop off. Timeshares, bus, golf carts, etc. So we've heard that it's a problem with the folks coming in and out and dropping off, and we hear that, and the policy that we're going to be putting forth, we will look to address that. Safety of pedestrian and bicyclists. I heard the numbers, some of the ad hoc counts out there, 400, looking at possibly doubling that with the new timeshare developments that may be built. If and only if we provide access, we would build the infrastructure. But if that's determined that we do not want to do that, then we'll put up proper signage and have the security guards redirect folks. Beach pass revisions, this is the biggest item, defining resident or who is eligible for a beach pass. That's the most critical, and we want to make sure it's a very succinct, easy to understand definition. One of the key things is it has to be tied to a current and maintained data source. You know, I spoke in the newspaper about there's a 4% and 6% tax rate on folks, and you can tell who's a permanent resident and full-time resident and who's secondary, but that was only to distinguish what data is out there. You know, however the definition is finally developed and approved by council, staff will vet and research to make sure that there is a maintained database that we can easily process these applications, and it's very clear to folks who is eligible and who is not. The implementation schedule, developing the policy items now, maintenance and operations are ongoing, but we hope to show improvements next summer. And then the capital improvements, we have some funds now for soft costs such as surveying and design, etc. But we would be looking at next fiscal for construction on those. And the recommendations put forth, this was at the committee, to endorse the removal of metered spaces at Islanders Beach Park, given that we get the concurrence from the state partnering agency of DHEC, and to also endorse Islanders Beach Park as a residents-only park, and for town council to direct staff to return with a definition of resident for proper operation and policy management. And if there are any questions, I'd be glad to take those now.
What do you need from the council?
Jeff went through that slide pretty quickly. He did a good job overviewing what we were asking council. One, I believe that what would help me the most is an agreement in principle with 7 members of town council, the majority, to move forward to establish Islanders Beach as resident only. So I don't have that yet. The policy there is simply the built environment. It is the public metered spaces, and it is the beach pass holder spaces. We have made a request to inquire about removing of the meters. By no means, if I receive that request, am I going to go out there and remove all the meters without your collective direction. And so, one, tonight, if nothing else, give me advice or direction on moving forward with Islanders per the policy, Jeff, of that slide you had. The first one was Islanders as resident only. Jeff, what was the other one?
Removal of the metered spaces.
Yeah, and so they kind of go hand in hand. And once that is provided, what I would do is come back to you once I learn a little more about the meters, and we're waiting on the state. With all due respect to the state, things do take time. We have requested and asked what strings, if any, are there if we would remove the meters that were put in place as a condition of public parking some years ago. So I think that's the most important tonight. We would have to also bring you back some some thought, and we would also like your input on what truly defines a resident. And right, we've received the emails. By no means is Jeff here tonight recommending to you that we change the island's definition of what a resident is. But if the beach is island resident, is it status quo? We have more than 6,000 beach passes issued with a little more than 1,300 or so available spaces. And so if that's status quo, so be it. At least the meters would be removed. But if the town council wants to also give me some direction on an amendment to a policy to refine access, that's a bigger issue.
I don't think we ought to sell more than 10% more than the number of spaces that we have, not multiples of 6.
Right.
David, can we send this to your committee so you can look at it before the next council meeting? I'd like to get something done in December so people don't say we wait till beach season every year and talk about it. Okay?
But, yeah, I'm fine with that, but I'd like to talk to Mark offline, because I think that what would be beneficial is for the staff at that meeting to come in with some specific options so that we aren't just shooting with shotguns.
Good. I agree with you, David. You'll take care of that, Mark?
Yes, sir, and intend to do that.
Okay.
Mr. Brown has a question, sir.
Yes, Alex.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I think that the increase of traffic down at Islanders, Berks, Dreesen, Mitchellville, the North Beaches are somewhat a byproduct of what we did through the Circle to Circle exercise, where we wanted to push more traffic this way, right? So I just want staff to be mindful. I'm in full support of us redesignating Islanders Beach, okay? But as a result of that, we will have added pressure on the other beaches, okay? So as I can appreciate us having somewhat of a budget aligned with Islanders, we need to also be thinking forward as to improvements at the other beaches to handle bus drop off and that sort of thing. Because I'm not quite sure that all of those beaches that are on the north end, particularly Farley Field access, are currently equipped for additional traffic. So I just be mindful of that.
I think you're absolutely right, Alex. You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions on the beach?
I would like to ask a point of clarification. This came out of the Community Service Public Safety Committee from Mr. Harkin's committee with a recommendation to bring this question forward. I have no concerns at all working with public planning because it's some real policy being adopted. We're kind of living in both worlds. This is a facility improvement and enhancement, but it is real public policy through a planning effort. And keep in mind, we did say that we do need a beach master plan, strategic plan. And so while I think that what we're doing today is piecemealing the issue, because what I'm hearing from Mr. Brown and the clarity from you is let's look at the big picture. But I'm also hearing that Islanders Beach was an issue last year. It was the most emails I've received, and I think we mobilized. I think Jeff did a great job with Mark Robson and the whole team mobilized to make some improvements down there with security and parking and expectations and cleanup. What I'd like to do is have an Islanders plan in place before next season, knowing that the bigger picture plan is going to take us a little bit of time. Yes.
Bill, you had your hand up?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This Jeff's presentation, which was really identical to what it was shared today, was very enthusiastically accepted, recognizing a lot of detail had to be worked out. But in principle, creating or recreating an Islanders Beach is something that we need to do. And Alex's comment was well taken also, that, you know, one reaction one action here is going to result in other reactions throughout. So I think moving this to public planning as a island-wide effort makes sense, and we'd be glad to participate in a helpful way any way we can.
I think it'd be great, Bill, if you could work with David.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Appreciate
It can reside in public planning, but I want to say one other thing. The political reality in our taking this position of Islanders is resident only has to be communicated to the broader community in a way that we answer the question why in the context of how this decision is going to relate to the broader access to beaches elsewhere. I do not want to be painted with the brush of exclusivity capitalized. Yes, we are providing a place for residents to be able to get to the beach, but we are a community where there are a lot of other people who might not be defined as resident in our final definition. And I just think those people are owed an explanation of how we are going to respond to their needs of beach access.
Okay, but you're on mute.
But let's do it then,
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll move this forward with staff and team to public planning, but stay close in touch with Mr. Harkins.
Yeah, whatever you send to Dave, make sure you send it to Bill, okay? So
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay, we're gonna go into executive session. We're gonna go into executive session now. On the executive session, what we're doing is moving up 12E to be number 1, to do the evaluation of the town manager first.
Right. I have 13E online, just for clarity.
Well, it's 12 on mine,
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Absolutely, sir. We just need a motion to go into executive
I need a
session.
motion out of it.
Move to go into executive session as requested by the mayor.
Need a second? All in favor, raise the right hand. Thank you. How much a break we need?
I'd give us like a couple minutes. She's just taking it down right now.
Okay.
And then all of us will leave and.
Recording stopped.
For you to